October arrived, spreading a damp chill over the grounds and into the castle. Madame Pomfrey, the nurse, was kept busy by a sudden spate of colds among the staff and students. Her pepper-up potion worked instantly, though it left the drinker smoking at the ears for several hours afterward. Ginny Weasley, who had been looking pale, was bullied into taking some by Percy. The steam pouring from under her vivid hair gave the impression that her whole head was on fire.
The Belated Binge Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the Belated Binge Podcast. I'm Zach, your host, revisiting some of the most iconic series in recent memory that I was incredibly late on, like our current binge of Harry Potter, where, despite being the same age as movie Harry, within days, I didn't read this series through until my mid-20s. That's the belated part. Now we're going back, a chapter or two at a time, picking it apart, deep diving what's on the page, speculating about what isn't, particularly Dumbledore's role and his master plan. What did he know? When did he know it? And the motivations guiding the story, and of course, infusing as much sarcasm as humanly possible. That's the binge part. Together, they make the belated binge, and today we continue our reread of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets with Chapter 8, The Deathday Party. And I'm excited to introduce our special guest for this episode, but before I can do that, because there are rules to this shit, I must tell you, this podcast will have spoilers. This series wrapped up in 2007. If you haven't read them by now, you're even later than I was. This podcast will also have some adult language. You can buy them in the kids section of the bookstore, but I didn't read them till I was a grown-ass man. We have no patrons, so no patron shout-outs, but the moment you've all been waiting for, it is my complete pleasure to introduce you to the host of the Restricted Section podcast, one of the minds behind the Movie Night Network, the co-founder of an independent book publishing company that just introduced its own podcast, How Do I Book, and all-around badass Potterhead. This is Christina.
Hello! Oh my god, what an introduction. I'm going to put all that on my business card.
Did I miss anything?
I like hiking.
I'm sorry I failed you.
Add it to my CV.
I'm putting it down in my notes right now to make sure that I never introduce you again without she likes hiking.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Of course. However many of those things you want to actually tell me and the tens of people listening about, go for it. The floor is yours.
I'd love to. I just love talking about myself. So, yeah, I'm the host of the Restricted Section, which is a super raunchy, silly, adults-only, explicit, pro-trans rights, Harry Potter slander, Harry Potter book club podcast. And we are on our summer break, releasing some fun bonus content, but we'll be getting into... Oh my god, I always... Order of the Phoenix. For some reason, I cannot remember the name of that book. It's just like...
I don't know.
Whatever comes after Goblet of Fire.
Yeah, I end up just going with book 1, book 2, book 5, book 87.
We'll be starting book 5 in August, so I'm very excited about that. I'm also, yes, the founder of the Movie Night Crew podcast network, which has oh my god, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 podcasts. We have a Percy Jackson podcast, an Avatar: The Last Airbender podcast, and some other fun stuff. So if you like other fandoms, we got shows for you. Yes, I am also the co-founder of Wildling Press, an independent book publisher that uplifts marginalized voices and educates debut authors. So I do a lot of things. I'm very busy.
Yeah, how many podcasts do you actually host and maybe more importantly have to edit?
Just 2, the Restricted Section and the How Do I Book, which is Wildling's podcast. They're very different, so that helps with the editing. How Do I Book is 20-minute episode format, which is a lot better than the Restricted Section's 90 minutes if we're lucky format.
I have to ask, does our episode still hold the longest episode fucking ever on the podcast? Yes.
I will, in fact, never permit an episode to go beyond that. Because Zach came on for Veritaserum, which is let's explain the entire plot of Goblet of Fire to you. So I wasn't about to be quickly, we have to get through this quickly. I think we were going through line by line of his confession and being let's break this down a minute.
We did line by line of his confession. We also did like line by line of the leading up to it, like
it was
the
just
spiral.
so much. It's a beautiful chapter, truly. So
It really is.
If I get my way, there will never be a longer episode than that. I think it clocked in at like 2 hours and 20 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, it was bonkers. And of course, I listened to it from a fan perspective the moment that it released. And I made it through the whole thing.
Oh my god, very impressive.
I may or may not have muted myself several times on
It
one
happens.
of my rambling tangents, but that's fine.
Well, when I was getting ready for this episode, this morning I was listening to our Death Day episode, which we released in 2020. That was back before I understood how audio worked. That was back before a lot of things about the restricted section got good. And it was like Zoom audio. And I was like, oh my God, I used to talk so much. Like I talk a lot now, but I've like learned to let my guests speak.
It's a good start.
It was I was like, oh God, I don't need to listen to this one again. That's for sure.
I didn't, and now that you mention it, I should have this week listened to when you guys went back to do that. I remember going back to book 2 for your podcast, though, when we were talking about what chapter we were going to do together.
Oh, yeah.
I just started listening to some of the random chapter 2 episodes. I don't remember how far I got. I don't think I made it to Death Day. But you chose this chapter, and in a minute we're going to find out why. But I have so many more questions for you before we can even talk about Harry Potter.
Okay, I'm ready.
First of all, how did you start a book publishing company?
Wow. A lot of paperwork. Basically, my colleagues and I have been working together in independent book publishing for a long time, and we just like, there's not a ton of options here where we live in Richmond, Virginia, and we just like didn't love our options. There wasn't a lot of forward thinking. They weren't very contemporary. I don't even need to talk shit, but we just thought we could perhaps like do it better. So we just did. We were like, we're going to start the publishing company that Richmond really needs. And then just a lot of unpaid labor and paperwork.
Speaking of unpaid labor, will you review my Sons of Anarchy fanfic and lie to me that it doesn't suck?
I would be so happy to.
For free,
Do I need
of
to
course.
have read or watched Sons of Anarchy to understand?
Actually, no.
Okay, cool.
You
That's
wouldn't.
perfect.
Because I tried, and this is so fucking stupid, but I'm going to say it anyways. It was when the like pandemic first started and we were totally like shut in and had an infant. And I was kind of losing my mind with creative energy, I guess you could say. I hadn't started this podcast yet. I hadn't done anything like that. So, but what I had done is read that the creator of Sons of Anarchy was like fired by the network and it was a whole mess or whatever. And I realized that we weren't going to get the sequel that was kind of like promised.
Oh my God.
And I wanted it. So I just started writing it.
Write the sequel you wish to see in the world.
Yes. And I have no doubt it's absolutely awful. I haven't read it. I just started writing. and I stopped at some point because I realized I'm not good at this. What am I doing?
That is so brave of you to be real with yourself like that.
Oh, I'm sure that what was written had some nuggets in it that didn't suck horrifically, but I had no idea where it was going. Mm-hmm. So I have no doubt that as a whole, it sucked horrifically.
Perhaps feels rambly. It's like, where are we going?
I'm sure. Yeah. But there's plenty of, I guess, setup.
Ah, yes, the setup book.
For those like you who didn't watch the series and like, here's how this person relates to that person. Because like, well, there is children, so we should probably mention that he exists. Whatever. It doesn't matter. It's bad. I won't even read it. But if maybe one day I'll have too many beers and send it to you and you can not open that email.
I anxiously await the day.
Okay, on to Harry Potter. So I mentioned earlier when I asked you to come on the podcast and we were trying to figure out what to cover, you chose this Death Day chapter. Why?
I just feel like it's really iconic of Chamber of Secrets. Chamber of Secrets, I call it the Halloween book because it feels like Halloween from start to finish. Yeah, it just feels that way. Like, it's very spooky, it's very vibey. And I've always lamented that this scene did not make it into the film. I think it would have been really fun. And the way that they had to, like, cut the story in the film around this scene to make it work was like a nonsense timeline, you know?
Yeah.
But I just really enjoy it. I think it's fun. I think the whole subplot with Nearly Headless Nick and the Headless Hunt is, like, very silly. And this is, like, a very visual, very, like, visceral chapter. You can, like, smell it. You can taste it. You can feel it.
You can smell it. You can taste it. The cringe is abundant.
Yeah, abundant, I would cringe. Say. Yeah. A whole buffet of cringe for you.
A rotten,
maggoty,
spoiled, yep, mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. So if that's what you're into, this is the chapter for you.
Well, you told me that you don't really like this chapter. Is that right?
I really don't. And so I also said that before I reread it, right? So this is like me going back through this. So I've been surprised a couple of times. It actually just happened to me a couple chapters ago. The Gilderoy Lockhart chapter.
Classic.
Which I am so not a fan of, as in my memory.
Okay.
And I was like, maybe I'll just put 6 and 7 together and just kind of skip over this one because it sucks that bad. And how the hell am I going to make a podcast episode out of this? I totally had to redo my plan and just cover chapter 6 because there was stuff in there that I completely forgot about.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I forgot we got that set up here. And this, like the Justin Finch Fletchley introduction is in there. And
and especially with the first couple books, like the chapters have so much in them because there's so few chapters in the book. Like this one too has a lot of stuff going on besides the Deathday Party. The Deathday Party is kind of like a distraction from what's actually going on.
It is, and that's again I had forgotten some of that stuff. I just remembered the Deathday Party itself, and I'm like, oh, we have to deal with Moaning Myrtle and Peeves in the same room. Oh my gosh, I am so glad I don't have to go through this by myself. Misery loves company. But there was, it was like, oh, I forgot it started this way. And of course, we're going to get into all of that. But there was stuff in this one too. I keep being surprised by my own ability to forget when certain setup happened. And certain like foreshadowing and nuggets got dropped, which is funny because that's like my favorite part of the series is where those things are like strategically placed.
But the chapters are never named after those things.
No.
So you don't know. It's hard to keep track of when they're like bookending. The thing that happens in the chapter is like bookended by the actual important thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very astute point from the eyes of an editor. I just think, hey, I can totally remember everything that happened in that 7-book series that I listened to on audiobooks when I was 25. Yeah, I won't forget anything. No way. Anyways. Okay, so in case you were obliviated or you got your Hogwarts letter late, let's shove our faces in that white liquidy substance of our pensive. In the last chapter, Mudbloods and Murmurs, Harry spends a lot of time trying to dodge his new groupie Colin Creevey, whose level of Harry obsession rivals that of Ginny's, and at this point, only instead of being unable to speak around him, he's unable to shut up.
Really cool.
Oliver's Wood is super into Quidditch and tries to have crack of dawn practice, which is just so frustrating, but the plans are foiled by Slytherin being there at the same time. The dick measuring contest is interrupted by a broom measuring contest, which escalates into racial slurs from our best friend Malfoy, who has no agency and is not responsible for any of his actions at any point in time in this series. A hex gone wrong by Ron, who starts vomiting slugs, and then we have detention with Lockhart, who's a douchebag as usual, and Harry starts hearing voices. It's a heavy chapter. if you didn't hear that episode, you should probably go back and listen to it, because that's only the tip of the, I don't know, can you use iceberg here? Is there a Harry Potter equivalent to? There you go. That'll work. I'll take that.
Not a Harry Potter reference. Can I just say that you have such a lovely radio voice? Like, it's so perfect. Like,
Thank you. I do appreciate that. I miss working in radio. It was the funnest thing I've ever done for money in my life. The problem is there wasn't much of the money.
Yeah.
And I wasn't paying any of my bills, and I was wasting the student loan debt that I was accruing, because it just kept accruing more interest because I couldn't even afford to pay off the interest.
Right.
That's just a peek behind the curtain of small market radio, kids.
And now you're podcasting, which is a huge money rake. Just so much money from podcasting.
Oh, for sure. My total is up to, I think, roughly negative hundreds of dollars is where I'm at currently with my earnings from podcasting.
Yep.
Okay, so before we can get into this week's chapter, we have to close the book on last week and recap our
Expecto. Plot change-o.
This is the part of the show where we theorize on what we would expect to change in our story if we made one small change to the plot of the chapter we are covering. In the last episode, I asked, what if Ron's wand wasn't broken by the Whomping Willow? Amy on Facebook chimed in and actually had 2 points. So before we get to the Expecto plot change-o from Amy, she also had made mention regarding me calling the Howlers kind of the Wizarding World version of internet keyboard warriors. She said, I think it's more along the lines of those parents that put their kids on TikTok or put a sign around their neck outside to like shame them, like the Wizarding World version of public shaming. But specifically on the Expecto plot change-o question regarding Ron's wand, if it had not been broken, he probably would have gotten into huge trouble for cursing Draco, possibly dragging his father into it and getting Arthur into trouble in the process. And obviously, all the future issues with the wand, both in school and with his role in the trio, would have been different as well, making him more capable. Thanks, Amy. So before I get into my perspective, Christina, what do you think? If you can remember back to Mudbloods and Murmurs, what went down, how would it have possibly changed if Ron's wand wasn't jacked?
I'm not like... I don't know. I'm not completely confident in Ron's ability to like perform magic. He did it to himself, so I guess he knew the spell. I don't know where he learned that spell from. But I guess that would be like a worst case scenario, because Malfoy would have eaten slugs and he would have been vomiting Missing slugs, and he would have been like, my father will hear about this. And then Lucius Malfoy is like so involved in this book that I think that there could have been real repercussions for Ron with Lucius Malfoy's intervention.
I think I can follow you down a lot of that. So I won't even, getting into my thoughts, I'm going to actually skip ahead because I think you're right on most of that. The only thing that I would say is that, one, it would be totally deserved if Draco's the one vomiting the slugs instead of Ron.
For sure.
Two, I think it probably does have ramifications with Lucius at this point in time because he's actually on the board of governors. Mm-hmm. But I think it's probably glossed over a little bit because if we learn anything in these books, it's that magical violence always goes unpunished at Hogwarts.
You're right about that.
And it's not like this would be the only time that Draco gets like hexed or cursed from this group in these book series, and at no point in time does it have too big of ramifications. So my brain went immediately farther into the future. Mm-hmm. If Ron's wand isn't broken, Lockhart doesn't have his memory charm backfire.
Oh, true. Okay. I see. We're doing a whole thing here.
Oh yeah.
Wow, that's super true. So he could have really ruined the entire climax of this book.
Absolutely. So Ron's definitely obliviated. How does Harry get out of the chamber and like best Lockhart in that situation?
Sheer dumb luck. No, but for real, I think it would have been just like protagonist shield. He like grabs the sleeve or something.
Yeah, he doesn't have the, and this is probably my biggest problem with Harry as a character in the entire series. He doesn't have any formidable skills on his own, particularly not at 12, so I don't know how he comes out of that.
Yeah.
So, next question, is Ron permanently damaged like Lockhart, or was that level of obliviation more because the wand was jacked when he did it?
I think Lockhart also hits his head when that happens. I think that when he gets like blasted back by the obliviation spell, it hits his head, so that he could have gotten concussed at the same time, and that could have like led to how badly he reacts to it. They do say that the only thing Lockhart is good at is obliviating. So I would hope that Ron would have been fine, and maybe it would have even been reversible.
Yeah, because I posed this in a previous episode as well. I don't think that Lockhart got to this point by just flat out wiping people's memories. So I think that would be way too detectable. I think he's actually good at and is able to just like manipulate their memory a little bit to be able to get away with this shit for years and not get detected. So that's interesting. But I think most importantly out of this whole thing is the title of this book just Secrets of Snakes with Gilderoy Lockhart at that point then?
I do like that.
Thank you.
Secrets with snakes.
Because all of his books are very much like literations or whatever they call that
alliterative.
In your world. Yeah, that's the word. I don't have that kind of vocabulary. So what's Dumbledore's next move if Harry's actually obliviated? Can he reverse it?
I guess. Maybe he could reverse it.
He probably could have cured Lockhart, but he's like, no, this guy sucks. Let him just keep sucking with no memory.
God, it's just so hard because Dumbledore like would doom a man to forgetting who he is for the rest of his life. He is like, oh, I literally forgot about you, Lockhart. Let me just fix you up. Like, it's so hard to know what Dumbledore is doing on purpose, what he is simply overlooking, and what he's doing like by accident.
Yeah. Well, because I can't stop going down rabbit holes, so we're gonna go even deeper. Mm-hmm. Let's say Harry is just bonkers. Mm-hmm. He's still essential to defeating Voldemort if he's alive for Dumbledore's whole master plan.
I think then if Harry doesn't remember anything and like you have to start from scratch with him, he has like short-term memory loss like Dory from Finding Nemo. I think that you would, instead of subtly offering him as bait, which is what ultimately happens, I think you just overtly offer him as bait. You're like, here, Voldemort, come and get him. Voldy.
Yep, that's my exact note on this is he a sacrificial lamb in waiting?
Yep. Yeah.
So then what? Does this series become Severus Snape or does it perhaps go Neville Longbottom and the?
Both of those characters deserve an actual redemption arc. Neville gets one. Snape does not, if you ask me, get an actual redemption arc in the book series as it is. That he's like, but I loved your mother even after she said no and then died. But if you give him the redemption arc of becoming the actual hero and being the downfall of Voldemort, yeah, that's a redemption arc.
Yeah, it is a redemption arc. I think I probably stop reading.
Yeah, you can't really switch protagonists like this.
Yeah, it's
divergent.
It's tough. I'm the anti-Snape apologist.
Yeah.
Personally.
Fuck him. He's the worst. He's a child
really
abuser. He's an incel abuser.
Exactly.
He doesn't even shower.
Yeah, and I struggle with the other one too, because at this point, like, Neville is brave, but he's useless. Like
At this
he would
point, for sure.
Yeah, he would definitely have to be like sucking up to Hermione.
It would accelerate his glow up if he had this responsibility foisted upon him.
Maybe, but he doesn't even have his own wand yet either.
Neville?
Isn't that kind of the turning point for Neville? Yeah, because he's using his dad's old wand, and he doesn't get his own until... Yeah, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh, look, Neville's a badass, and he's also hot, apparently. So it worked out pretty well for the movies in the timing aspect.
That actor was like, I'm not... Do you know this? That actor, after the second or third movie, he was like, I'm not wearing the fake buck teeth anymore, and I'm not wearing the fake fat suit anymore. Did you know there are girls on this set? I'm not doing it. So they were like, oh, crap, okay, I guess he's hot now, whatever.
I mean, they all went through puberty, so, like, it was bound to happen.
It happened in Goblet of Fire. Everyone's just pubing so hard.
Although the voice change for Dan Radcliffe between movie 1 and movie 2 is like, it's kind of rough.
These poor children had like their entire U's on display for everyone to see.
Yeah, that's terrible. But the good thing is we all got to have them exploited for our own pleasure and entertainment, which is great. I mean, I'm sure they were paid handsomely, or at least their parents were.
And Daniel Radcliffe is doing it all right now with his career. He's like, give me your weirdest, most fucked up roles, and I'm on it. He's just trying to have fun.
Yeah, he's all right. Let me see. Sorry, trying to get prepped for this next part of the thing. Yeah, I can't even follow what he's doing. Like, you know, some actors or actresses or acti, I don't know what the
I love that.
That would be. You can kind of follow their career trajectory and like understand the parts that they're taking, and you're kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, this is all. I kind of see what's happening here. Him, I got no idea. I'm just like,
he does whatever the fuck he wants.
He can totally be Weird Al Yankovic.
Yes,
why not?
I'm so excited for that. I'm so excited for that. I respect the hell out of it.
Oh, anyways, okay. So that rabbit hole aside, we need to, and I'm ready to go with my selfie stick. I don't actually have a selfie stick. I should probably get one of those so this angle isn't so rough. Okay. This week's Expecto Plot Changeo question from Chapter 8 of Chamber of Secrets, The Deathday Party, is, what if Harry didn't find Filch's quick spell brochure?
Mm-hmm.
Does he still get out of trouble? Does it change anything that happens in the chapter?
Right.
What about beyond? Let me know your thoughts to be included in the next episode of the podcast. Okay. This video that I just took will be posted on social media across Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. You can respond with your thoughts on any of those platforms or as a voicemail on my website, belatedbinge.com. Christina, do you have any thoughts on that one since we're not going to have you around for the next episode?
That's so hard because, like, the fact that I almost said Daniel Radcliffe. The fact that Harry finds the quick quotes thing that's talking about squibs is not. The book doesn't have that scene as a character thing for Filch. It has that scene as a world building thing for Harry so that he understands what a squib is later when he needs to.
Yeah.
And so, like, I don't know if it would change anything. Filch came back ready to write Harry up, but like, yeah, it's hard to know. It's hard to say.
Well, I will get into my thoughts next week because that's how this shit works. Now, finally, we're 30 minutes in, and we're actually going to talk about the chapter.
This is not a quick quotes episode.
No, it is absolutely not. So let's dive into this week's chapter with
Priority. Incan chapter.
We've reached the point where our wands connect. Not the tips, just the streams. So we can recap what went down in the chapter we just read. This week, Chapter 8, The Deathday Party begins. Depressing as shit. It's rainy. It's cold. People are getting sick. It's gross.
It's gross.
Luckily, there's Pepper Up Potion, which is something we definitely need.
Yeah, how much do you want that?
So bad. So bad. I feel like I would be one of those weirdo people, though, that would just drink it ahead of time. or I would avoid it completely because that's kind of how I treat medications.
It's
I
like
would
not a
just deal
medication
with
though. It almost
hell.
reminds me of like if you make a hot toddy, like tea with whiskey in it. You know, it's like it's just like good all the way down, just clear you out a little bit.
Yeah, I can see that. Isn't it supposed to be like? Isn't there supposed to be something similar to this in our real world where it's like literally you drink pepper filled something and it like just awakens the senses to a point where it cleans you out? I don't know.
Whoa, I've never heard of that.
I don't know. I always think of the what does my mom always try to make me do? And a neti pot.
Ew, I can't do those.
Yeah, I would just drown.
Yeah, it does
Like-
make you feel like you're drowning. Some people swear by them, and like, good for you that you don't need your sinuses, I guess. But I tried it because I historically have had terrible problems with congestion, and the neti pot is just made it so much worse for me.
My mom's one that just swears, but if you think you're getting a sniffle, just drown yourself. I think that's her goal. Like, I think she's just like, all right, breathe in right now.
It's like drowning yourself to avoid having a cold is like killing a unicorn with a bomb. Like, it's like you're doing way too much.
Way too much. Speaking of drowning someone, Harry's coming back from more Quidditch practice, covered in mud, and has a chat with nearly headless Nick about the headless huntsman plot that we'll get into in a bit. I think this is the first that we've heard of it in the books, though. Like, I know the first movie just kind of like slides it in right away, but I can't remember if that was a movieism or if like nearly headless Nick is just applying every single year.
Allow me to refer to the Sorting Hat chapter. And then it says Gryffindor, and then
Gryffindor.
Nearly headless Nick. My man's a muggle. My dad's a witch. I don't know. I don't see it at first glance. So
Yeah, I'm thinking that they kind of just transposed it from here into the first film as a way to describe like nearly headless Nick.
yeah, give him something to do.
Yeah. So, okay, so then he's probably not applying every year. But I'm wondering how many times he has applied.
He's been applying for 500 straight years.
But like, why? His head hasn't fallen off, and isn't going to have his head fall the rest of the way off. Like, what's he doing?
He should at least wait for new leadership to step in before trying to reapply.
So, I guess. I don't know. Anyways, well, the conversation's cut short because Filch is in a mood, and that's where the wanting to drown somebody comes in.
Dude,
he's all pissy.
He has the flu, and
He does.
he's the only non-magical person in this castle, and he's cleaning up mud off the floor without magic with the flu.
I get it. His job sucks. He's also a dick.
He is, but catch me with the flu, completely horizontal. I'm not getting up off the couch.
I'm with you. This is what he should be doing. See, here's the thing. People just completely shit on Dumbledore for like, why is this guy here? Why does this guy have to always do this? Like, Dumbledore, what are you doing making him clean up all this messes? I actually have this weird headcanon that like Dumbledore hasn't asked him to do this.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
And like Dumbledore would have easily let this dude just like go lay in a cot whenever he wanted. But like he has the self-importance of like, if I don't have my mop, this won't get done.
Well, and we've theorized over on the restricted section that like Filch is always writing students up and like submitting a lot of paperwork to Dumbledore, and we have this headcanon that Dumbledore just has a folder that's like Filch paperwork, and when Filch turns in his paperwork, he's just like, thanks, bud, and he just puts it in the box and never looks at it again to humor him.
That might possibly come up later, because I feel like I may have had that thought as I was writing the outline for this episode. Yeah, I guess that's just... I've also heard, I don't know if you've heard, the Super Carlin brothers have this theory that... I refer to them a lot, by the way.
I think this may be the only thing of theirs I have ever watched, is what you're about to say.
That he's also a poltergeist?
Yeah, did you send me that video?
No.
Oh, somebody else sent me that video specifically, and I was like, okay, I'm finally gonna watch Super Carlin Brothers.
They've got some really good ones. Like, usually what happens is I watch one of theirs, and I'm like, that's a really interesting thought, and then I go down my own just spiral of theorizing because, you know, I still cling to this notion that after 20 years of fandom, there might be an original thought left to have.
I mean, we're both doing podcasts about it, so let's pray to God that there's some original thoughts left for us.
Right. So, anyways, he's all pissy with Harry about the mud, and he takes him to his office. This is where we learn that Filch has an office. Mm-hmm. Why does Filch have an office?
For the paperwork, for all the paperwork.
I don't want to degrade his position, but I don't recall the schools that I went to, and I went to several. There was like 7 of them.
They didn't have janitors' offices?
I don't remember a single master of the custodial arts having an office.
There's like, Filch is like a caretaker, and he has responsibility. A janitor at your high school could not write you up. Like, they could not discipline you. So he really is like a rogue sheriff out there.
Yeah. He's Dwight.
Yes.
But, like, with less power.
Yes, he's like Dwight from The Office, right?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. That's great.
That's a fanfic crossover that needs to be written by somebody other than me because I have no talent for it.
And Dumbledore is Michael Scott. That could work.
Oh.
That could work.
Okay, we have a side project. I hope that you're not busy for the next 12 to 48 hours. The office is as dingy as Filch's personality. It seems to reek of desperation for authority and likely 3-day-old cheese. And as he's writing Harry up, which ironically in my notes I had with 2 S's, which works either way. He apparently does a lot of writing students up, as you said. And here it is, in my notes. What's Dumbledore doing with all these suggested punishment requests from Filch?
And he has a lot of his own files, so is there like a carbon copy situation going on?
I have no doubt. It's the white, yellow, pink like pamphlet thing. That's what he's using. So he's just tearing off one.
One goes to Dumbledore, one he keeps the original, and then the third copy goes into the official school records, which is also something that he invented that no one else cares about.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, we're getting it together now. It's all coming
together. So Dumbledore's filing cabinet for these is definitely the same as, speaking of The Office, Pam's special filing cabinet for Michael Scott's memos from corporate.
Right.
Which, for the 4 of you that have not seen The Office, is a trash can.
My husband is a DJ, and they have a joke where they'll put a Post-it that says requests on a garbage can.
Okay, we're going down into... I did that job, and it's 100% accurate.
Yeah.
These kids will come up to hey, can you play this? And no.
I'll never forget, because like a wedding DJ is not the same as like a DJ who does it for the love of the art of DJing. And so my husband spins house and drum and bass, which is like electric dance music, right? And I'll never forget this one party where this drunk ass bitch came up and was like, "Can you play John Mellencamp?" And Sean was like, "No.
I can't. No."
First of all, you are misunderstanding the vibe here right now. Second of all, I do not physically have that song.
No.
Have you?
No, we're not going to play that.
You've seen The Office, so it stands to reason that you've probably watched Parks and Rec as well.
I have, yeah.
There's an episode, and I don't remember what they're preparing for, but Tom is making a playlist for some event. I don't remember. And he has this like speech about before I put any song on my playlist, I ask myself, is it a banger? Are there any acoustic instruments used? How many drops are there? How dope are the drops? Don't forget, we are the vibe curators. And I always think of that. It's like, that is not the vibe. I'm curating a vibe, and your acoustic music is not the vibe right now.
No, there is a vibe for that, and it is not here. Anyways, we interrupt this conversation about DJing and The Office and Parks and Rec to talk about Harry Potter. We're interrupted in Filch's office by a loud crash, and Filch knows that this crash is Peeves. He just can feel
Isn't it always?
Because they're both poltergeists.
Wow. Oh my God, that's so true.
Look, Peeves is... Filch might be as obsessed with Peeves as Colin Creevey is with Harry Potter.
Yeah, that's true.
Or more.
Why are you so
I don't know if you
obsessed
can get
with
to
me?
more. And this is where I know you personally are thinking, or Harry and Draco, so go ahead. Do it. Just say it.
It's true. Why are you so obsessed with each other? It's because you're in love.
Just say it. So on that point, all right. Right now, in this point of the books, I think it's the other way around. Draco spent the entirety of Sorcerer's Stone plotting against Harry. He spent his entire summer talking about Harry with his dad.
It's true.
Ironically, so did Ginny. And he couldn't wait to corner him when he saw him at the bookstore in that dad fighting chapter.
Dad fight. Oh my God. Another tragic loss from the movies.
Right. That
I always forget that happens. And when I read it, I'm like,
know.
they're fighting.
Yes. Yes. And Arthur actually throws like the first... It says he just knocks him into a bookshelf.
Doesn't matter.
My
it's the coolest
imagination
thing he ever does.
is he just decks him. Anyways, all Harry's done so far is try to avoid Draco because he's a fucking bully.
Yeah, and it's like a slow burn thing, and it's mostly Draco having very mixed feelings for Harry. It's like an intense obsession, and he's not, it's love, but he's like, it's hate. No, it's hate. And then I feel like it's around like book 6. It's like the Sectum Sempra thing that makes me feel like the whole, like it's shifted, and it's like Harry is now into Draco.
I just can't get myself there with that ship. I just can't. I know people do. I know people love it. I just can't.
Here's the thing. As we mentioned earlier in this episode, there's so few original things to talk about. So it's like, okay, well, let's change around some of these relationships, see how that works out. My favorite thing from my podcast is our guest Danny pointed out that it makes a lot more sense if Snape was in love with James instead of Lily. And that changed my whole perspective about the whole story, is adding that element to it. Snape was in love with James, not Lily.
That I can actually get behind.
Yeah.
That makes a hell of a lot more sense to me than the Harry Draco thing.
So here's what I can't get behind.
Personally.
And there's a lot of Draco Hermione shippers out there. That's what I cannot get behind.
It doesn't make any sense. Like I don't know.
It's
fine. Whatever.
Draco and Harry kind of like mutually are shitty to each other, but Draco bullies Hermione racially. And it's like, don't ship those people.
Yeah, I can't. I just can't. I like what you like. Take your headcanon wherever you want to take it. But, like, you're not bringing me on that ride.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Because I also, even into what you were saying, like, even by the time Half-Blood Prince does roll around, Harry's definitely obsessed with Draco.
Mm-hmm.
But it's more like Snape's obsession with Harry.
It's like, I know
than
you're
Snape's
up to something.
obsession with his mom.
It's like, I literally know you're up to something. I'm gonna figure it out.
Yeah, and I don't think he would have been if anyone would have fucking listened to him.
Interesting.
Like, if anyone would have given him the time of day and, like, taken him seriously when he brought it up several times. And by the way, he was right the entire time.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he would have gone to the extremes of obsession over it that he would. But in his mind, has the hero complex. He's obsessed with playing the hero. And he's like, nobody else is going to do anything about this, and I know shit's about to go bad.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, like, always what drives Harry to action, is that he, like, really feels in his heart that something's happening and, like, no one's listening to him, and he has to go handle it himself.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's solidified for us in the first book, and I brought that up on my podcast way back then. It's like, when they did finally try to come and get help from, like, get McGonagall to go get Dumbledore and get help with the whole Sorcerer's Stone debacle, they were shut down by authority. And it's like, well, this had to happen. Because these kids have to get it ingrained into their brains that adults aren't going to help you. You have to do this yourself. Otherwise, we don't have a series.
Otherwise, you don't have young adult or middle grade fiction. If they're
Exactly.
if like the adults are always doing the right thing, like these kids aren't responsible for any of these problems.
Yeah, they do. None of this even happens. Anyways, we're sidetracked yet again.
It happens. I'm so sorry.
This is literally why I podcast. So instead of just booking it when Filch goes after Peeves, which I have no doubt was Nearly Headless Nick's intention with this whole distraction, he turns into a little snooper and finds Filch's quick spell pamphlet, which I absolutely read like an infomercial.
Billy Mays here with quick spell.
Yeah, right. So anyways, of course, Filch comes in just talking to himself so that we can get an Easter egg-shaped vanishing cabinet plot.
Oh my god.
And his timing is such that he must catch Harry reading this thing, and he's more embarrassed than if he found a pamphlet for VD treatment.
Huh.
That's pretty much what this is.
I would probably say like erectile dysfunction, Viagra.
Bottle of Viagra, yeah.
And it's like, oh no, he knows.
Yeah, or like the prescription for it or whatever.
Yeah.
Like you didn't find the bottle, you didn't find the smoking
You find
gun,
the
but you found,
pamphlet.
like,
It says Viagra and you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what this feels. Anyway, Mrs. Norris probably wishes it wasn't an allegory. That's gross.
It makes a lot of sense because both of them are like, your wand isn't working right.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I don't know. Am I using allegory properly here? By the way, I'm only partly Ravenclaw because I'm kind of dumb.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, allegory's great.
Okay.
I'm only partly Ravenclaw because I'm dumb.
So he kicks Harry out under the promise not to share his friend's secret floppy wand problem. And that's when we get Nick back, who we learn was the one who got Peeves to create the diversion in the first place.
What a bro.
Which is literally, I wrote down total bro, which is a phrase I would never use in my real life. Thank you, podcasting, for opening up this vocabulary in me. And when Harry says he wishes he could do something for him too, he should immediately wish that he hadn't, because this is when Nick invites him to his Deathday Party.
Here's my problem with Harry forever. And at least my podcast is covered through the end of Goblet of Fire. So at least through the end of Goblet of Fire, Harry is incapable of saying the thing he's thinking. And it gets him into so much trouble, and he acts like such a victim because he just chooses not to say the thing that would resolve the situation. So like he's like, yeah, when he wants to say no. So like just say no. And there's a lot of this in Goblet of Fire where things are just happening and he's like, oh, I wish I could say a word to fix this. Like when he has that terrible interview with Rita Skeeter, and then like a couple chapters later, Rita Skeeter is trying to schedule an interview with Hagrid right in front of Harry. And Harry's like, wow, she's really going to write a lot of mean things about Hagrid, and I wish there was something I could do about it. And it's like, you could tell him. You could just say it to your friend.
Yeah, you could just tell him not to do it.
Yeah, use your words. So it's like, Harry,
Also,
you gotta learn to
Hagrid's
say.
a grown-ass man.
Yeah, well, but if Harry has information that he feels like Hagrid needs, say it to him.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm also saying Hagrid is a grown-ass man.
It's true, but
It shouldn't be Harry's responsibility.
right, he should know that Rita Skeeter is like this.
Yeah.
But in this situation, it's like, yeah, go to that fucking Deathday Party because you couldn't muster the strength to say, oh, sorry, I have other plans.
Yeah, this is exactly all right. So my toddler is obsessed with the show Bluey, which I imagine you've never seen.
I have heard a lot from my parent friends, and I've never seen it in my life.
I can dig it because there's a lot of good like adult humor hidden in it.
Nice, that's awesome.
Some of my favorite episodes like make fun of like a lot of stuff just subtly, and it's great. Like this kid, they go up to this in a market. They go up to this guy who's selling donuts and shit, and she's like, "Does this have any flour or wheat or sugar or added?" Da-da-da-da, and like goes down the list of like all the things that you can't eat if you're eating organic. And he looks at her and goes, "That's all they have in them." Anyways, the Bluey episode I'm thinking about is the little 4-year-old keeps letting her bigger sister or like her parents kind of like take the thing that she wants to say no, and eventually the mom looks at her and goes, "Does sometimes your outside voice say yes when your inside voice means no?"
Aww. Oh.
And she goes, and yeah, and they resolve the thing. That's what I'm thinking of
so
when you're talking about Harry. It's a funny show.
Love that.
And the dad is awesome. He never knows anything that's going on in this game, but he is 100% committed and just into it.
Yes, I love that.
Anyways, so of course the Deathday Party is happening at the same time as the Halloween feast, and Harry is terrible in awkward situations. So, yep, we're going to a Deathday Party. Hermione's down.
That's like
by the way.
rude. Like, it's like your friend who gets married on Christmas. It's like that's rude of you.
Yeah, Chris. Mine was bad enough. I got married during a very prominent college football game. I didn't get to choose.
Oh, we have different friend groups. In my friend group, that would not have mattered to anybody.
Oh, it didn't happen. It didn't matter to my wife and most of her friends. There were a couple of us that like kept checking phones. It was also my dad's birthday. So shout out to my dad for having a happy birthday on my wedding anniversary.
That reminds me, you said that you're like the same age as Harry within a few days. Does that mean your birthday's coming up? Mm-hmm. When's your birthday?
In August.
What? Oh, okay. You're a Leo?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Cancer sign.
And it's the same like year.
That's so funny.
As the movie canon would have gone. Yeah.
I love that for you.
Thanks. So it was perfectly normal for me to read like 3 of these books and totally put them down and not pick them up again until
just because a character is the same age as you doesn't mean you have to connect with them at all.
If I do this and put my glasses on.
Oh my god, you just became Daniel Radcliffe.
Yep, that's what I've heard, and that's why one of the reasons that I didn't engage with this series in a meaningful way growing up, because I was constantly made fun of for looking like Harry Potter.
That's very fucking funny. My co-host Haley looks a lot like Harry Potter too, and her name's Haley, and I have said the wrong name before. Yes.
That's funny. She was the one that was on our episode.
Yeah.
She's my favorite of your rotating co-hosts.
Oh, she's a lot. I recently posted a survey and made our listeners pick a favorite, and Haley won.
Yeah, I took part in that survey.
Did you vote for Haley? You don't have to disclose.
If I was being honest, I would have. But I think that I found the survey after you posted that nobody voted for you. So I think I voted for you.
Yeah, for a while there, nobody had cast one single vote for me. And I was like, that's fair. I talk a lot. I'm kind of annoying.
Well, I think part of it is like it's your show.
Yeah.
So when people think of like who's your favorite, like they think of the
ones who aren't always there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like if not, it's you posting, trying to get people to tell you that you're the greatest.
Vote for me.
On your own podcast, which is a bit odd. And also maybe why I might have voted your way. If you actually read the responses on all of the questions, which were abundant in all of those things, you might be able to pick mine out, because there's some giveaway sarcasm.
Yeah, okay.
Anyways, Hermione's completely down to go to this Deathday Party, right? Because she's a fucking weirdo, and I mean that in the best way possible. Yeah, she's just really into this. Ron is not, but of course he's incapable of living independently at this point.
That's true.
He's 12.
I get it. Kind of.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's curtailing a little bit. If his friends are going to a ghost party instead of his favorite feast of the year, he's going to the ghost party. But he's also Ron, so he's gonna bitch about it. So now D-Day is here, and I don't mean Normandy, I mean Deathday Party. And this is where I'm gonna have to lean on you. Because this is the section that I struggle with the most.
Okay.
So the way I've decided that we're going to go through this part of the book is I'm just going to start asking you questions, and you're going to take us home.
Okay, great.
First question. What the fuck are we doing here?
Wow. Wait, who specifically? Ron, Harry, and Hermione, or you and me, the reader?
Yes, at the Deathday Party. Like, what are we doing here? And you can actually take that either way you want to go, because I don't know the answer.
Because, like, Nearly Headless Nick is also having a terrible time. It's like, it's my death day. I can cry if I want to. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like Nearly Headless Nick wanted a day that's all about him, and then, like, at his death day party, he's like, oh yeah, I'm dead, and none of this matters, and none of it's working out for me. Like, it's like I'm gonna have my 30th birthday party, and then, like, you get really drunk, and then you're like, oh my god, I'm old, and then you're crying, and all your girlfriends are like, no, stop, you're beautiful. Only Nick doesn't have any girlfriends in the bathroom with him to tell him he's beautiful. He invited his bully to his death day party. So the answer to your question is, I don't fucking know what we're doing here. It's chaos.
It is. And what you just said reminds me of a story about my wife that I have to share because it's fucking funny. So her 25th birthday, right? I'm not going to tell you when that happened. But
between 1 and 10 years ago,
she was like hanging out with her friends, and of course they were having some drinks. And she looked around at her friends, and she's like, oh my gosh, guys, I'm halfway to 30. And her friend looked at her, and she goes, you're halfway to 50.
Well, that's a great way to ruin the party.
Oh, and it brings me joy every time I think of it. Anyways, next question for you. Would you have come to this Death Day party?
I probably would have asked. Again, I have speech, and Harry does not sometimes have speech. So when Nick asked me to come, I would have probably said, that's really interesting. Can you tell me some more about it? Because if you're asking me to skip dinner to go to a party, I am a fat kid, and I'm finding out if there's food for me. Like, I would have gotten to the bottom of that. Who else is coming? Any of my friends coming? Like, I would have gotten more details. And if I found out that there was not food that I could eat there, I would have said no, because I need to eat dinner.
I think that is a completely logical way to approach it, which is probably why Harry didn't.
Yeah.
And it also makes my next question kind of useless, because I was going to ask, would you have stayed more than 5 seconds after you walked in on what's happening here? But you probably wouldn't have gone in the first place because it wouldn't have had the things that you wanted.
It feels like they're only there for 20 minutes, and yet they miss the whole feast. It's like, you were gone for 2 hours. Like, that's definitely, like, when your friend that you don't know very well is having a birthday party that you're not really down to go to. It's like, you show up, you give them a present, you make sure they see you, and then you can leave. You don't have to stay.
Yeah, I think I'm out.
You wouldn't have gone in the first place?
Well, I probably wouldn't, but let's say I did. Because, I can be nice sometimes. But I probably would have walked into this place, looked around, realized that we were the only ones with a pulse.
Yeah.
And that there was no food. And I would have turned around and left.
Yeah.
It would have been like when I signed up for yoga class in college in the summer as like a 1-credit course to get me 1 credit closer.
Yeah.
The whole time I'm like, what am I doing? I'm not flexible. I don't what is this?
It makes you more flexible.
I walked to the door of the classroom. I looked in the little it was a wooden door with just like a small
peephole.
window in it. Yeah, I looked in. And I didn't even open it. I turned around and I walked out and I dropped the class.
That's so funny.
That's what I would be doing with the Death Day party.
My 1-credit gym class in college was bowling, and that was extremely fun.
So we're at the Death Day party, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we first get there and we get mentions of some of the ghosts that are in attendance, and some of them are going to be important later.
Right.
Foreshadow possibly to our Divination segment, which is a foreshadow segment, which might be the proper way to use the term meta. I'm not quite sure about that. Which one of these ghosts gets you most giddy when you reread the series? Specifically when you reread it.
Oh my
Not
God.
like the first time you read it and these names or whatever, but like when you get that tingly, oh my gosh, this is going to be important later. Here's your 3 options.
Okay.
1, Moaning Myrtle. 2, the Fat Friar. Or 3, the Bloody Baron.
Okay, so Moaning Myrtle is for me, it's like she is really important in this book, and so her introduction here, it's like, yeah, this is how you would introduce her, is by having her cry at you. So I think probably the Bloody Baron. Wait, is he the one who had like the love affair with the Gray Lady? Is that right? Yeah. So I would probably him.
Well, not the affair. Like he was Snape. He was obsessed with her. She didn't want him, so he killed her.
Oh, great! I love that. Love that so much. Let's keep telling stories about poor men who don't get the women they want.
Right. So the woman winds up murdered because of the poor man. But Snape is a hero.
This is why women can't just reject men, dude. They're gonna end up dead.
Jesus. We can't go. We can't.
We don't have time for all of that.
That's a sidebar that we just can't go. All right, but you bring up a good point. Why is the Gray Lady not here?
Just introvert.
Okay. I'll follow that.
She's like, oh, I politely decline.
Yeah. Harry, take notes. So as they try to avoid Myrtle, per Hermione's direction, Ron finds food, because, of course, Ron finds food.
Classic.
How long would it take you to vomit smelling all this rotten food?
I could not be in the same... I'm pretty sensitive about this stuff, so as soon as I saw that platter, that buffet of disgusting foods, I would have to leave the party, lest I vomitus maximus everywhere.
Yeah. Yep. Nope.
I'm not doing it.
Out.
And like once it's like, maybe if I didn't know it was like at the beginning, they don't know it's there. Maybe it smells a little weird in there. But like the second I knew I was in the same room as that, I'm out. Like I can't not think about it until I'm far away.
Yeah, so far away. At that point, you can't even go to the real feast because now your stomach's just like done.
Yeah, go get like a single piece of toast and like hope that you can slowly work on it throughout the evening.
Yeah, so they're there for way longer than either one of us would have made it.
Yes.
And they start to try to leave the rotten food and maggot table, and they run into Peeves. Is Peeves the worst?
I think he's the best. He's so fucking funny. It's just he like doesn't let anyone get away with anything. Like he is so funny. I love him.
That's so. When I ask where you land on him being left out of the movies,
I think that it was appropriate to leave him out of the movies just because having a grown ass man fart in children's faces is like a weird energy to it. It like sounds really funny, but it would look bad.
Yeah.
And, like, they filmed him, and they were like, this isn't working. Like, we're not doing this. It's not working.
Well, didn't they say that the kids, like, literally couldn't hold their shit together?
That...
In the couple of scenes that they did?
Definitely might have been true.
Yeah. And from what I hear, I went on a podcast with some... When Harry Met Movies to discuss Sorcerer's Stone.
That's cute.
And they are overseas. I can't remember exactly where they're at. Sorry, guys. But... they were very familiar with the actor that went to play Peeves. I was not, obviously, but he said it was the perfect casting choice.
Wow.
Had it made it, it was absolutely perfect because he's absolutely hilarious and he's very physical. So it would have like really worked.
I also think that like if you were to remake Harry Potter today, which don't, but if you did, I think that the graphics capabilities that we have now are much better suited to that kind of thing.
Yeah, because it could have been all CGI and not needed a literal physical human
and you can just
grown
do
up
so
to
much
be
more.
there
like,
doing
all
it.
of the ghosts in the Harry Potter movies are very ghosty. Like none of them are moving their bodies. They're just like floating around and they're gray and see-through. But like Peeves is like another story. He's like concrete. It makes special note in this chapter that he is like opaque. He's like very silly, and so you can't just make him like this floating ghost thing. Like he has to be like really interacting with the things around him. And I think that we're a lot better equipped to do something like that now than we were in like 97 or whenever they started filming the movies.
Yeah, 100%. So they and I've started to think of Peeves as a they because it's a poltergeist, which is what like a physical representation of mischievous activity at Hogwarts, right? Like not a ghost who ever lived as a human in any way. So it is more of an they situation. that I've completely started overthinking when I started to type he, and it's like, no, like it's more of a statue with nothing. It's like the movie Dogma at this point for Peeves, I think. Anyways, Peeves calls Myrtle over to make everyone just as uncomfortable as humanly possible.
Oh my god, I love it so much. He's like, oh, were you just talking shit about Myrtle? Hey, Myrtle!
Hey, Myrtle! They were just... But he can't even just bring Myrtle in to make the people uncomfortable. He also has to shit all over Myrtle in the process and them. So it's like equal opportunity, just
he's just
fuckery.
ruining everything. Yeah,
he is.
He's like the meme. You know that meme of like the little girl like giggling and there's like a house on fire behind her. Like he's that meme. He's like, yeah, look what I did.
Chaos. Yeah, chaos. So is Moaning Myrtle is as a character, like, does she get at all redeemed when we learn about the circumstances of how she died later in the book, or does she just kind of just suck?
She just sucks.
She does. She sucks. Okay, moving on. Nick kind of saves them just in time for this weird like entrance where everybody gets quiet and apparently anticipates the grand entrance of the Headless Hunt.
Maybe those like ghost powers. They're like an odd, chilly calm came over the crowd.
Was it weird that I noticed that I picked up on like everybody stopped before they came?
That is weird. I mean, it's not weird of you to pick up on it. It's weird that happened. It's part of their presentation.
Yeah. And these are the people that, like you said, he invited his bully. So, like, why?
Yeah. I don't know, man. How did you think this was going to go, Nick? Like, what did you think was going to happen?
Yeah. I don't understand. Whatever. We're finally getting out of this awkward celebration of gloom and doom.
Please.
When Harry starts hearing voices again, and they're saying the kind of shit that you expect in a children's book. Rip, tear, kill. So hungry for so long. Time to kill. There's nothing creepy about this at all.
No. Very
and
normal.
It totally makes sense for 12-year-olds to read this. What the fuck? Anyway, Harry's the only one who hears it. It's apparently loud enough that he can understand the words, but it's not loud enough for Ron and Hermione to hear anything. Yeah, this is going to come up later in the show. Harry's making him chase the voices, giving them a play-by-play of what he's hearing, because obviously they don't know what the fuck's
Guys,
going
it's
on.
bad. He is not saying nice things. We gotta go.
Yeah, we have to find this thing. Yeah, he's got them running around like idiots, and then we see it. The Chamber of Secrets has been opened. Enemies of the air, beware. In like blood on the wall. Isn't it chicken's blood? Isn't that what it is? Rooster blood or whatever?
So.
Or is it just red paint? I don't know. Underneath it is Mrs. Norris hanging from the wall, and the trio just freezes.
And Ron's like, we need to go. We need to go. And they're like, what? And Ron's like, no, I swear to God, we have to fucking go. Too late.
Yeah. As astute as Ron has ever been, which is naturally perfect timing for them to get caught there anyways. By apparently the whole school.
Yeah, the whole school.
Everyone. Taking the same corridor, same exact time because...
Reasons.
Plot?
Draco Malfoy. He should have been going down, but they're up on a corridor, and he's there for plot reasons. And, like, the movie makes this even stupider because it's not Halloween. It's not the Deathday Party. It's just class gets out, and they're, like, in the middle of the hallway, not in class for whatever reason. And it's like,
but it's
the
the
whole
middle of the
school
night.
is right here. That's what I'm saying. Like, the timeline in the movie never adds up. It never, ever adds up.
No, because he comes from Lockhart's detention.
Yes, exactly.
It's like, oh, we've been here nearly 4 hours. You haven't had dinner. It's getting so late.
Yes.
It's like, oh, well, not late enough for the kids to all be out of bed walking the corridors.
We're all here now.
I don't know. So Draco shouldn't be here. He also shouldn't be shouting racial slurs at any Muggle born within earshot.
But,
Thank God his dad's an asshole. So he's not responsible for any of his behavior.
yeah.
ever.
Still, you should stop, though. The Draco.
Don't say it. Don't say it. The Draco apologists and social media warriors will cancel your podcast if you decide that Draco has any agency at all over any of his actions at any point.
But he does. You don't have to be screaming. Whatever, dude.
Right. Every episode I manage to somehow get annoyed at this justification of how shitty of a person Draco is. Especially the creepy ass smile that he gets and the joy he gets out of seeing this cat hanging there.
Oh God. Well, okay. Cats are here's something that you might not know, listeners. Cats are not monkeys. Their tails are not prehensile. They don't grab or wrap on things. The notion that Mrs. Norris is hanging by her tail is not like a cat thing. Which, when I was a kid, I was like, oh, she must have just been chilling upside down. No.
Oh, I never took it that way. I always took it that she was displayed.
But they make a thing that she was upside down looking into the puddle. And that's how she got petrified.
Oh. See, I guess I didn't ever read it that way. Like, I know she saw through the puddle. I always thought she was just looking down.
Okay. That's the only thing that makes sense.
She was hung up there.
Oh my God, Ginny was like, I'm going to put this
on
cat
display. Yeah.
My cat heard us talking about Mrs. Norris and came up and had a little something to say.
And is hanging by her tail? Are you full of shit right now? Because I totally think that's happening.
Oh my God, Dante. Here's my cat. What would you like to say? Mrs. Norris was a good cat.
Mrs. Norris was very, very mean.
She was mean. I just finished. Oh no, it was we recently released a bonus episode about My Immortal, the terrible Harry Potter fan fiction.
I know. I haven't heard the whole thing, but I have been listening to that.
You don't really need to read the whole thing. But they call...
Oh, no, I haven't read a damn sentence of that fan
Good.
fiction. I've just listened to you guys talk about it for a while.
It'll make you go insane. I'm insane now. But it's like one of my co-hosts said that the fan fiction displays a gross... Oh, wait. Hold on. Fuck, what was the wording? Like, it's not just like a misunderstanding of the source material. It's like an abject disrespect of the source material, like in the way that it gets things wrong. And so it talks about Mr. Norris, the caretaker, and his cat Filth.
Yeah, that's about right. And far from the most egregious thing that's in that book.
It's very
based
true.
On what you've told me through your podcast.
But I was thinking about that because earlier in the chapter, Filch comes in running and he's like, Filth!
Come here, Filth! We're gonna catch him this time. Anyways, okay. So I was gonna get into a Draco thing here. We kind of already did. So we'll skip the Draco thing, I guess. Is there anything else on the chapter specifically that like we missed chronologically to running through that you wanted to bring up?
Let me think. Not really. I just like in the very first paragraph the way that it's like, yeah, Ginny was looking really pale. Like, she obviously had a cold, you know? This whole book, it peppers in little stuff about how Ginny's, like, not doing good, but you would never notice unless you knew.
You're absolutely right, and I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't clock it in this one.
Really? Exactly.
I know it happens. Like, I know it's laid in there. I know they set her up in, like, she's almost spiraling throughout the entire book.
It's like, oh, she's pale because she's about to commit cat murder.
Yeah, I didn't clock it in this chapter because it's hidden in there with, like, everybody sick.
She's not well.
Huh. That should have been in an upcoming segment of the show, and I'm just going to tell you, it's not from me. Although it should have been. But that does wrap up the chapter, bringing us to